All right. Hello again, everybody. My name is Joel Junker. I'm Senior Vice President Partner here at Cameron Brooks, and I lead our part of our company that partners with you all, the military officer, on helping you all make the transition from the military to the business world. And I'm excited to spend with you about the next hour in this presentation together. So the first thing I want to share with you is that I think what we're sharing tonight, and if you're watching recruiting, is all of these information on how to make the transition from the business world. We talk to thousands of officers every year that are making this transition from the military to business. And sometimes we hear people when they come to us like, hey, I never really intended to make the military career, and or maybe they were thinking about making the military career or unsure, but they get a little frustrated with, they want to have more promotion and compensation based on their performance, or maybe a better work-life balance, or maybe more control and input on their career. Or as they look out over their career in the future, they don't see the growth potential that they want. So those are typically things that we hear, and you might be here because you're thinking the same things. And those are good things to think through. However, the question we want you to start thinking about is to evolve is, okay, that might be why you're thinking about why you want to get out, but where do you want to go? What is your career plan? Where do you see yourself in the future? So, hey, we get it. We understand. And what we want to do here as transition coaches is to help you start thinking more about what are my options out there? Start thinking about career goals, not just on where you're leaving, but where do you want to go? And start thinking about what's the plan for my work, the career, what's the natural progression of my career, and not just a job. Hey, I want to just get out and find more work for return for pay, because I'm sure that's not what you want. But if you're going to start thinking career, it's good to have goals. It's good to have a plan in place. And my team and myself, we're here to help you start thinking through that, not just on why getting out, but what your goals are. I've been doing this for 22 years. As I said, I'm a partner here, so part owner. I've been helping officers for 22 years make the transition from the military to business. And I've helped 5,000 of our officers come through our program, make that transition into the business world during that time. So thanks for being here. I'm excited to share with you my knowledge, how to get the most out of this presentation. And what I want you to take away from this, if you're on live, quiet place, you're watching a recording, certainly get in a quiet place, pause it, get to a quiet spot, make sure you have a good internet connection, because we have a lot of slides coming at you. Take notes. Write some things down. What resonates with you here? What's standing out with you? What are you learning about this transition that's helping you shape your thoughts on your goals and how you want to make the transition? And do you want a partner to help you along the way? And I highly include your significant other to be involved with you, because if you have a significant other, they're going to want input. They're going to, they have things that are important to them about their careers, where you live, quality of life, education for the kids. And at some point, the military is not going to be dictating to you all anymore what you need to do. And the spouse and you are going to get to make decisions together. Write down questions, and at the end, we'll have an opportunity for you to have a Q&A with me and throw those out there. So at Cameron Brooks, a little bit about us real quick, and we'll finish more about us in the end of what we do. Our founder, Roger Cameron and Renee Brooks, started this industry 50 years ago. And we're proud to carry on this tradition. We carried on the company from them starting January 1st, 2013. This is our leadership team here at Cameron Brooks. Chuck Alvarez, our CEO, myself, a partner here, Mary Lou White, one of our founders, Rob Davis, Pete Van Epps, and Lauren Kordzik, three of our other career transition coaches as well. So we have other team members as well, but that's our leadership team. And I got to tell you, I think I work with the greatest team in corporate America, not to take away from anybody else, but these are fantastic people that really help or really care about helping other people reach their goals. But what do we do as career coaches here? And at Cameron Brooks, we partner with top performing junior officers. So we don't work with enlisted, we don't work with non-commissioned officers. or retiring senior officers. Predominantly what we partner with are those with a 4 to 14 years of officer leadership experience, maybe junior, senior first lieutenants, junior captains, all the way up to junior majors. And we have a range of positions and range of companies, like a variety of candidates. So we have that, but that's our sweet spot. And so we're very focused. We're a niche transition firm, and that's who we partner with. And we only work with positions helping people that transition out of the military into positions in the business world where they can develop, they can grow into higher levels of leadership role. Our companies are hiring officers, these junior officers, this 4 to 14 years to grow and develop to higher levels of leadership roles and responsibilities. And we work with industry leading commercial companies, businesses, companies that just came to our most recent career conference that you're probably familiar with, like Ernst & Young, now called EY, Johnson & Johnson, Corning, some up and coming biotech companies like Procept Biorobotics and Takeda Pharmaceuticals, and high-tech companies that are innovating surgical procedures like Intuitive Surgical, as well as consumer packaged goods companies like SC Johnson. So a variety. So junior officers, we will help you set goals, we'll help you prepare, conduct a career search, evaluating options. And through this process, as you're walking down this map, this trail to reaching your getting out of the military and landing in the business world, help you avoid the pitfalls, the missteps, so that you can successfully launch into the business world. This is the core of what we do here. So what are we going to cover in this presentation over the next 50 minutes or so? Why does corporate America value you? What are they looking for you in a military officer? What are the characteristics that you bring that they need? What are those options, those career fields? I hear this pretty often. What are the career fields that are available to you out there? What kind of roles or positions you can go into? And so you're going to learn about why companies like you, what's out there. Okay, and start thinking about the transition. But as we showed you that map, walking along those roads to get to that final destination, it's really easy to get off course to make some missteps. And I'm going to share with you today what are those common missteps, and so that helps you avoid the biggest mistake in the transition, which I'll share with you what that biggest mistake is. And we'll talk about how can you create the strategy to avoid the missteps, to make the successful transition and launch that career into business and avoid that biggest mistake in the transition. And then, of course, what those next steps in this Cameron Brooks process looks like. So I've been working, as I said, I've been proud to work with junior officers, people like you, for 22 years. Here's what I hear over and over again, why companies value you. We talk about this 3 Ps, your ability to solve problems, to manage projects, to lead people. You have an incredible leadership advantage. You have a strong desire to grow and develop. You have great abilities to lead and get results. You have this great track record of success. And our companies, this is very important, our companies are looking for you to be a development candidate. What does that mean? It means that you have this ability, this desire to move to higher levels of leadership responsibilities. And our companies value this people leadership focus that you have, your ability to take initiatives and to deliver results through project management and solve problems. Even though you may not have project management certifications and training, that's okay. You have experience doing those things. And this leadership experience comes through really well illustrated on this graph I'm going to share with you here. So on this vertical axis, leadership experience over time, and over time, those years 4, 8, and 12 are post-college graduation. Your workforce peers, when that get out from college, go straight into the business world, on average, they change companies over 3 times in the first 4 years. They do a lot of do-overs. So they graduate, they probably had one offer. They didn't compare a whole lot of things. And they probably picked it for the highest salary or the best location, or maybe the combination of best salary, best location, or this is the only thing they have. And then they get out there and it's like, I'm not sure this is the right fit for me. And so they end up changing and quitting and looking for something else. And then they get into that role and they realize there's something wrong with that too. And they change and quit again. And then they do it again. Well, they're maturing along this way. And they finally figure out, hey, if I want a career and not just keep job hopping, I got to stick with something. I got to build a track record of success. But in those first 4 years, they're getting very little experience. So it's not till like that 4 to 8 year point where their career really begins to take off and it really accelerates and moves up within a company, moves up within an organization. And you can see it really taking off. But those first 4, 5, 6 years, when companies hire people right out of college or only hire people with about 6 years of experience outside of college, that's a lot. It's a risky proposition because a lot of them haven't quite figured that out yet. And they don't have a lot of leadership experience. But you all, on the other hand, in the military, look at your leadership experience. You come right out of school, education. Maybe you did OCS, but in either way, you went the academy, ROTC, you did OCS, you got taught leadership. You come out, you get leadership responsibility right away. Maybe it's leading teams, projects, budgets, acquisitions. Within 12 to 18 months, you move to another role with increased responsibility and you keep getting more of that responsibility along the way. And then they keep giving you more. And this gap in this like around 4 to 8 year point is when your gap over your peers in terms of your leadership experience is really significant. I'm going to go back to that. That is your leadership advantage. And that is that people, projects, problems that the companies we work with really appreciate. The hard thing to recognize, I'm going to talk about this though in a bit, not every company out there sees this. Hence why we exist at Cameron Brooks. We know how to find those companies that get you. I talked to somebody earlier today that has been looking in Houston for 2.5 months and is frustrated by applying to everywhere. She's like, Joel, I have all this leadership. I know I've done it, but they just don't see it. They don't get it. So we're going to talk about this in a moment, but you can't confuse, you have this, that every company is going to see that. Companies we work with get this. They see the advantage that you bring to them. We talked about this development candidate concept. There's really 2 types of roles that officers, when you're getting out and going into the business world or pivoting into another career, can get into, we say development or non-development. Not one is better than the other, but they are different. Development roles, you're going to be a future leader in the company, meaning you're going to move up into higher levels of leadership responsibility. You're going to get broader experience, exposed to a lot of different things in your career, especially in those first 5 years. I don't mean necessarily rotating around at different functional areas, but I mean, you're going to get experience that's going to give you real world responsibility in a company so that then they can develop you and help you grow to higher levels of leadership responsibility. That's what the development role is. It's somebody that has this ability to move up to higher level roles and position, has this desire to do it, is interested in business and motivated and committed to it. Now, the non-development candidate is more of a subject matter expert. Now, listen to me, you engineers or data analytics people. That doesn't mean that you can't be a development candidate because you have a very specific technical knowledge. In fact, companies want to see leaders that can do those things as well. I think sometimes it's hard for technical and analytical educated people that have all this experience, like, well, maybe I'm much more of a subject matter expert. No. It's how you see yourself. Do you want to be working on the same technical system, analytical system your entire career? Do you not want to get promoted and have more responsibility? Do you want to be this subject matter expert? One of the ways that you can do this right now is get out of the military and go work for a defense contractor. Take your defense experience, do defense work. Go from maybe the government where you are right now, go to work for a 3-letter agency. That would be one example. Or maybe you just want to do R&D and you just want to do research and development and you want to study scientific, analytical, technical things. You kind of get an idea when you're in a non-development area, when the conversations that you're having with people are about just what's on your resume functionally, what you know, not about the potential, not about the relatable as a development candidate, so your relatable skill set. Now, when you interview as a development candidate over on this left side, because they're interviewing you, hiring you for your potential, you're going to have about 8 to 20 people evaluate you. And it's got to be 100% unanimous that these people want to bring you on board, because it's an investment. You don't have the functional experience. You have relatable. So they're going to teach you the functional. On the non-development side, you might not even need an interview. They like your resume. They got the functional experience. They're going to hire you because they know they can plug and play. As a result, because they can plug and play, higher starting salary. The development candidates can be more equivalent salary. And that's another question a lot of officers have. Hey, can I make enough money out there? I can tell you this, our companies know what you make. They know your kind of total comp, those types of things that you get in the military. And for the most part, they're going to make you whole, if not a little bit better. Now, maybe if you stay in 14, 15 years, you might take a slight step back because you've been in longer. But for the most part, our people, at least people with us, are going to be made whole in a base salary, bonus, and benefits. It's going to be more equivalent to what you're doing now. But look at that graphic on the left there with that beige moving up. It's higher upside. You're going to get promoted based on performance, based on results, where the non-development is going to have a bit of a lower upside. It's going to be, kind of got hired at a higher salary. You're going to be a subject matter expert. It's not going to have a lot of upside there. The non-development candidate, because you're not going to get promoted and is a government person, you don't have to, or defense, you probably don't have to move. You can probably stay where you are. Or you can maybe just choose one location, go look in that area and be a non-development person. Well, if you want to go to an A-tier company, top-tier company, be a development candidate that gets you, you probably want to open up your aperture of what geographies you want to consider getting out, so you can get in front of companies and opportunities that get you, that get your background, that are going to have the role that's going to allow you to grow and develop the higher levels of leadership responsibility. And if you're going to be a development candidate, the companies are going to want to see that you commit. Talk to a lot of officers, and they'll say, well, I'm thinking about business, but I'm going to apply to these schools, MBA schools at the same time, might go to full-time graduate school. I might go government, I go defense. Now our companies are going to look for you to burn the ships. It's like when those explorers, they come, they put the ships in the harbor and they get off and they start exploring. Well, the leader torches the ships, burns them. Why? So there's no going back. We're committed. The companies are going to look for that commitment. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do reserves. You can do reserves, and we could talk more about that in future conversations about how you balance that. But burn the ships means I'm committed. If a company hires me, they're going to invest in me. This is what I want to do. So if you want to be a development candidate, what are those career fields that are out there for you? What are those options? Well, there's basically 4 main career options. There's business analysis. So consulting, what we call business operations analysts, it might be internal type of consulting. Companies have their internal groups that are doing process improvement. Corporate finance is considered business analysis, maybe like IT project management. There's a whole variety of things in here, but think about jobs where we're working cross-functionally, optimizing systems and processes, or maybe looking at some data. If you got an analytical degree, you've done some good cross-functional work in the military, could be a good fit for you. Team leadership, a lot of times a very natural fit for military officers. Roles where you're leading teams of people and making a product, assembling a product, manufacturing, or operations is logistics and distribution. General management, where this is for those more senior officers, where this is what I say when people say, well, I think Cameron Brooks or everybody's kind of in this cookie cutter. No, not true. We have opportunities for more senior officers that can leverage that and maybe be in general management roles where they're leading teams and also interacting with customers. Those of you with technical or engineering degrees could find yourselves in engineering roles in manufacturing facilities, like manufacturing engineer. Could find yourself in roles where maybe working on quality improvements and things like that at a corporate headquarters, or maybe working with marketing and doing new product development and introducing to the market, or maybe working with customers as what they call an application sales engineer. Sales, it's So it's kind of like a nails on a scratch, a 5-letter word, nails on a chalkboard for some people. But companies love junior officers for sales because you're goal oriented, you're motivated, you know how to operate independently, overcome obstacles. And this isn't business to consumer; it's only business to business. They lead to management positions where you lead other sales representatives. You could be an account manager working with key accounts. You might have your own territory as a territory manager. And our companies give our candidates higher base salaries and bonus potential because they know that you're used to kind of that consistent base salary coming out of the military. So it's not very, very, very few, rare. We have opportunities that are 100% commission, typically higher base salaries. A lot of times they guarantee your bonus in year one. And then in year two, they'll take away the guaranteed bonus, keep your base salary but you want the guarantee to go away because now you know what you're doing and you're going to get bonus based on your performance. A lot of times people have some reservations too because they think sales, they think high travel. Most of our sales opportunities are in major metropolitan areas, as most of our opportunities are in major metropolitan areas, period, for all of our opportunities. And your customers are going to be in that major metro area for most sales opportunities. I could spend an hour here on career fields, but if you want to learn more, go to our website. It's under the transition JMOs, that section there, transition set, it says career fields. Actually, we're changing that title, be in the same place. It'll say career options, same thing. You can read job descriptions, sample job titles and characteristics to be successful in those. So those are development roles that you could be in the business world. All of them, regardless of what career field that we place people into, whether any of those four, what we're helping them do is launch a successful career into an ideal career trajectory like this. This is our goal. We want the mission of Cameron Brooks is to help military officers make the successful transition into corporate America, but we define successful transition very differently than most other people. It's not just getting out and have a job lined up 30 days before you start terminal leave. It's not just a job lined up with a base started salary. We measure our success 3 to 5 years after you get out. Are you in challenging work? Is it meaningful work? Are you using your skill set? Does your resume now show many accomplishments, a track record of success with an industry leading company? Because now you've got this great foundation, that red block on top of this great military block, and this promotions of general management, which director level roles, senior manager, director level, vice president, then executive level roles can come, but they build off of these things. You've already built this great foundation as a military officer. Our goal with you is to build that second foundation. That's what we're after. And to do that, got to get those great companies, those development roles, and it can be in those variety of career fields, and help you avoid doing those changes and do-overs like that college graduate did. And so to do that, I want to share with you some of those missteps that cause people to not get that second building block. So I want to walk you through some of the common missteps that people make. Number one, kicking the can down the road. Well, what does this mean? Kicking the can down the road means, and I hear this all the time, kicking the can down the road. So I'm thinking about getting out, but I'm going to wait. Not yet. I'm going to wait. The military is great at dangling that next carrot in front of you. Oh, go to Hawaii, go to Germany, PCS here, do this. We'll give you any assignment you want. And it's easy to stay in the military because it's the safe thing to do from the standpoint, it. You get paid. You know what you're going to get paid. You know what you're going to get paid 10 years from now. And you know the benefits. It's the safe thing to do. But the riskier thing, if you will, I wouldn't call it riskier, but the uncomfortable thing to do is make this decision to get out. But if you keep kicking the can down the road, your peers, remember that graph that we drew earlier? Those peers on that green, they overlap, they intersect around that, that 10-year point, 8 to 10-year point. Remember, your greatest marketability gap in that leadership was between that 4 to 8 year. You start losing your advantage around that 10-year point, 8 to 10-year point. And I said we work with officers 4 to 14 years of experience. We will. You may just have to take a step back a little bit in responsibility, maybe even compensation. But as you get closer to the intersection of your peers, you start to lose that advantage. And that is the consequence of that. What's the consequence of that? You lose time working in business, building that skill set, building that building block that I just showed you in the previous slide. That's the consequence of that. There's an opportunity cost. You spent more time in the military. That time could have been used in growing and developing corporate America. Here's a lot with especially Marine Corps and Army officers. Oh, I want to command. Well, it's going to take you 2 to 3 more years to stay into command. Why do you want to command? Well, I have to go build my marketability. Sure, it'll build your marketability. It'll go up. But would that time have been better used working in the business world? And right now, the economy is really supporting making a transition. And I know a lot of uncertainty could happen, and we've seen that happen over years, but the economy is really strong. The 4% unemployment rate, it's even lower than that, 2.3% unemployment rate for those of you that are watching this because you're older than 25 with a college degree. And there's tons of baby boomers continuing to retire every day. This is probably the best market that I've seen in 22 years. So what's the solution? Start exploring now. Start learning about business. So you kind of have an idea, you're thinking about getting out. Okay, if you're thinking about business, is this what you want to do? We've got a fantastic book, and it's not just because as you see my name's on there that I wrote it. I really believe in this book. Obviously, we wouldn't have our name, Cameron Brooks, on there, but our founder, Roger Cameron, helped us write the 4th edition. Chuck, our CEO, and I helped write the 4th edition. It's chock full of great information of what the transition looks like. It's not going to tell you what you want to hear. It's going to be objective. It's going to tell you what you're going to expect. I'd start there. You can get that on Amazon. It's like $10. It'd be the best $10 you invested in your transition. By the way, you don't get any of the profit on that. It goes towards the National Museum of the Pacific War Foundation to educate people on our great World War II veterans. A great book, Good to Great. There's business podcasts, news, periodicals that you can also to learn about. So start there, start learning about business. You can leverage our other resources that are very unique and specific to you. Mention PCS. We have a podcast called the Cameron Brooks Podcast, Above and Beyond. I'm a big podcaster. I work out with them. I listen on the way to work, on the way home from work. You can find us that on iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, Google Play. We have a YouTube channel. We have a blog. We have a transition guide center on our website where you can read transition guide, white papers, on-demand webinars, tons of free information out there. What's the takeaway from misstep 1? Start thinking for you. I encourage you to if you got a spouse, look at each other. Hey, what does a successful career, personal, professional life look like for us 5 years from now? We got a blank canvas. What do we want on that? Because sometimes we manage our lives in these, well, this looks good here, but if we really thought about what do I want? Where do I see myself going? You might make different decisions to help you get on the right path and move along that path to get there. What kind of work are you doing to help you get to those personal, professional goals? What kind of environment are you in? These are fantastic questions to think about. Okay, so let's say you decide to make the transition. I'm going to make the transition. I'm going to go to business. The second misstep that people make is they don't prepare. And they don't prepare because there's 2 challenges that they have to think through. Number 1, there's just a massive amount of information out there. It's like, oh my goodness, where do I start? I mean, it's so much. My family's pinging on me. There's news, there's coworkers, there's social media, spouse, friends. Hey, we can bring all of this together at Cameron Brooks and we can distill it down for you. We have a development and preparation program. That's what DPP stands for in that small bubble. And these are the topics you want to know about. We have coaches that will listen to you and guide you to help you set goals and then help you learn how to interview. We have a program, the self-paced and study to learn on how to interview. And then we have interview skills workshops, and we organize study groups to help you get ready, as well as a resume consultant. So we can take care of that problem with you. So don't let that overwhelm you. But the other thing with all this information out there, a lot of it isn't relevant to you because you're a non-traditional hire for companies. Not all companies and all information out there are looking at you as a military officer. I'm going to share the statistic with you, but you all as junior officers make up 1% of the working population of the United States. So you can guess that most of this information out there on how to network and land interviews is not really relevant to your skill set. Second is, hey, I'm busy. Well, you guys are really busy. So if you look at this graph on the top, on the far right, you don't have a lot of time to prepare. And so if you don't have a lot of time to prepare, because you're so busy in the military, that's what the X is. I hear a lot of officers say, well, I'll wait till things slow down in the military, and then I'll have more time to prepare. I'll wait till I can move to that box. I got news for you. I was 22 years ago that I made the transition, but that never happened to me. And I rarely had, it's occasional, but it's the anomaly that somebody's military career slows down, that they can take time to prepare. The goal is, how do I take my high up military tempo and take time to prepare? One of the things that people do is they look to do a skill bridge program to be able to allow them to do that. I'm proud to say that Cameron Brooks has a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Defense skill bridge program that Cameron Brooks qualifies, because we help people prepare to land positions in corporate America. So this is one way we can help that. But if you can't do something like that, we've got a tailored program that will help you balance your busy military life with preparing for the transition, because not preparing is a huge misstep. You'll end up in a lower level role, or a role that's not commensurate to your capabilities, because that's how companies are going to perceive you in the interview. A lot of people make the mistake, just because you've got this great military experience, that companies are going to love you. Well, they're going to appreciate you, but there's a lot of other things that go into a transition, like interviewing and great resume. And you need to really communicate your background. Here's an illustrative example of what this looks like. You got candidate A that's got this great stack of assets. Maybe they went to the best school in the country, and they've got the best degree that companies evaluate. And maybe they've got the standout #1 blocks in all their resume. Maybe candidate B went to, an average school, got a degree that's kind of benign for business, and it's got a solid GPA and got some standout bullets on the resume. But if candidate A goes in the interview and tries to talk about what they've done in the military, that's the green, that's that aqua blue color there, but only communicates to that level. And B has all this experience in the military, but communicates to this level of what they've done, tell better stories, more impactful stories. The recruiter is going to think candidate B is actually a better candidate. Sure, the resume wasn't as good, but boy, B came across as a better candidate. So yes, your objective assets are on your resume, but your interviewing brings out those subjective things of what you did and how you did them. So if you're not prepared, the company's going to perceive other candidates that may not have as good of a resume as being a better candidate. You don't want to wing the interviewing, because you'll probably end up in an opportunity that's not probably commensurate to your skill set, because you just couldn't interview to the level of your skill set. The third misstep I see people make is they have a hard time balancing all the factors in their transition. And we call these intrinsic and extrinsic factors. So extrinsic factors are important to just about everybody. And a lot of times they start with this. Where am I going to live? I want to live in a good place. I'm from Minnesota. I'm from Minnesota originally. I want to get back to Minnesota, although I didn't. It's too cold there for me. I would go there for a great opportunity, though. Compensation, I want to make a lot of money. Or what's the job title? What are the perks? What are the benefits? The extrinsic things, though, on the other side are things like, what's the culture of the company? Do their values match mine? What's the nature of the work that I'm going to be doing? Is it going to intellectually challenge me? Is it going to hold my attention? Does it have growth? And both of these are important. What I will tell you is prioritizing early in your search the intrinsic factors. Not that you're saying you don't have the extrinsic, but prioritizing early the intrinsic factors is going to create that foundation. Remember that red block? That's going to help you build, to stick with that company, to build those accomplishments, to get 3 to 5 years with that company, to build that resume, to show that you've made that transition out. Now, does that mean that money and location aren't important? Of course not. But it means balancing these things, trying to stay open-minded and considering the options of your companies and comparing them, because very few companies are going to have the same factors, intrinsic and extrinsic. And it's nice to compare all the options after you've interviewed with them, instead of eliminating things based on where they're located, based on how much they pay. And I know there's certain level locations and comp you won't consider, but try to stay as open-minded as you can so you can make a good decision. Probably the number one thing that comes up, number one thing, and it's always been this way, because, you know, for the last years in the military, you've been living in places you probably not wanted to live, and you might be getting out for quality of life reasons, to get closer to family. And if you want to be a development candidate, just about every officer wants to land in Block A. You want at the ideal location and the ideal opportunity. Great. That is strategy A. That's strategy 1. But you're in the military. What's strategy 2? And run that along with it. And so what some people decide is like, I'm going to run strategy 2 along with it. I'm not going to give up on the location. I'm willing to take a lesser quality of interview opportunity, a lesser quality company and position to get my ideal location. Talked to somebody earlier today. I'm not giving up on Houston. I just said, okay, I'm just out of curiosity. How's that going? Well, got some interview, got some opportunities. I got this one with this one company. They met with me. I don't think they totally get me, but they said they would interview me in 2 months. Not sure why they're going to wait that long. I said, what do you like about the opportunity? How would you rate it? He said, I rated a 5 on a 10 scale. Okay. Would you, I mean, if they give you an offer, you take it? Yes, I'd take it, because it's in Houston, because it gets me and it pays well enough. Well, then what are you going to do once you're in Houston, make that objective? Well, then I'm going to go look for another opportunity. But here's the problem. Do you know any top tier organization in sports? I don't know, musicians, whatever your domain of things that you follow, that says, hey, we're going to go get our next A players, our best leaders, our best executives, our future of our organization from B tier organizations? No, they don't even look at them. They're going to go over to the other A tier organizations. They might even leave their industry to go get an A tier leader. You know, just recently, you guys, Peloton is going to make a change. They're not a client of ours, but I just thought this was interesting. Peloton, the exercise fitness company, is making a change. Their CEO is going to go switch and become the chairman of the board. So get out of day-to-day operations because they need some help with day-to-day execution. They're going to somebody that has experience with like Netflix and social media. And I think it's irrelevant, but they're going to somebody that's been an A-tier company that has pivoted them. I think it's a classic example of, hey, we're going to go get our next leaders from other A-tier companies, A-tier organizations. Actually, a better strategy, if you want to be a development candidate, is to say, I'm willing to go to a B-tier location. I'm not talking C and D locations. I'm not talking like, you know, the middle of nowhere, some state, maybe you like the middle of nowhere, but, you know, middle of nowhere, some of these military installation like type of places. That's not what I mean by B tier. I mean, like, let's take this Houston person. Well, would you go to Dallas? Would you go to Atlanta? Would you go to Charlotte? These are good locations, a quick flight back to Houston for 3 to 4 years. But not give up on the quality of the opportunity, and then navigate your way back to the ideal location. Because your company will probably move you back, or you can easily in 5 years pivot from your company, stay within your industry, and get on board another company in your ideal location. I don't know, and I said I've worked with 5,000 people in help transition, 5,000 probably plus in 22 years. I don't know any of our alum that at the 5-year point are living in locations they don't want to be in. Now, many go into B tier locations, but many actually end up in A tier and A tier. They end up in that ideal box. And if they don't, they'll end up in B. And then sometimes they end up loving it in B, or they navigate back. But somebody who's been doing this for a long time, I caution you, if you see yourself as a high potential person, if plan B is, hey, I'll take a lower tier opportunity and then I'll go look for something else better. It's risky. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's risky. Why is it hard making the transition? Because you're changing industries, you're dialing up, you're switching industries, you're not staying in the defense, you're making a total pivot. You're not staying in the defense industry. You're not staying in functional. You're probably not going to do intel. You're probably not going to shoot tanks and weapons and drive ships. You're going to take your leadership, your problem solving, your people skills, and you're going to dial that up. So if you're going to dial those two things up, you probably want to broaden your search. You need to dial that up too and not stay that narrow. But if you're going to stay in your same industry or stay with your same skill set, you probably don't have to open up on location, because you're going to be probably that non-development candidate, and you can find organizations within that city that would value that very specific skill set. But if you're going to pivot away from your industry, pivot away from your career, your current functional knowledge, broaden to go find the companies that get that. So what's the consequence of this? Well, when you get out, you have this beautiful, full market available to you. You don't need to narrow down based on what you majored in, your education. You don't need to narrow down based on location or money. We advocate exploring your options, comparing options, because when you have fewer options, you lose the power of comparison. Why is the power of comparison important? Because it leads to a transition do-over. I didn't get to compare. I wonder what else is out there. I didn't know what was there. I'm not sure if I'm in the right thing. So they go look for something else. And all of a sudden you start changing, doing the do-overs, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. You limit your future potential. Next, mentioned this earlier. The next mistake is thinking all companies value your junior military officer background equally. PCS to corporate America highlights that there's really 3 ways to make the transition. It's transition out and transition down. What is that? It means going into a position in a company that's right along the college graduate. They don't value your military officer skill set. You're a veteran. They appreciate you, but they don't know what to do with you. This is why you see these rotational programs. They don't know what to do with you, rotate you around. Or, you could transition across, go into roles that are commensurate to what you've been doing. Maybe it's defense, government agencies, or companies that, hey, they hire a whole bunch of junior officers and they put you in a cohort and they kind of see who sticks and kind of give it some time, give it a year, give it 2 years before they really bump you out. Or you accelerate. This is all we do at Cameron Brooks, is pivot you out of where you are now into a real open position that's designed to create value for the company and make an impact and have an opportunity for you to grow and develop to higher levels of leadership responsibility. The consequence of thinking all companies value junior officers equally is getting into a misfit. The company didn't really get me, so you feel underemployed. The LinkedIn Veteran Opportunity Report from a couple of years ago reported that 1/3 of veterans feel underemployed, not using their skill set. Companies don't fully get them. 70% feel like I took a step back in responsibility. Can you imagine one of the reasons that you're getting out is to have, you're more excited about your future options outside the military, but then you get out and take a step back in responsibility. That's why it's important to get in front of companies that get you. Misstep number 5, getting caught up with what we call the filters. Some of you may have already experienced this. when you're going to apply to organizations, even if you know people, you got to start posting online. And companies are going to post a job position with a rec, what we call a rec requirement, a number assigned to it, and they're going to collect resumes and applications. And 250 people typically apply for any open positions. And they're going to have things in the job descriptions of what's required to meet the requirements. Must have an MBA, 3 years of relevant experience and compare as an advisor in financial services, experience managing small, medium, large operations with technology change initiatives, with brand name consulting firms. Right there, to qualify, you must have. These aren't nice to have, must have. No military officer has this with brand, because you get ruled out right away at the brand name consulting firms, right? This is actually from one of our client companies that has hired more than 10 people from us in the last year. But these are the things by applying out there on your own that you'll bump into. Here's another one from one of our client companies. It just so happens we have 2 finance related ones out here. Bachelor's degree in accounting or finance required. By the way, one of the candidates from this last conference has a French, German languages degree, got an offer from this company. So these are the filters that get easily caught up in when you're applying as a junior military officer, because companies don't get you. 98% of the people get rejected because it's not a human being looking at it. But even if you get that 2% get through, you finally get that HR interview. It's like a talent. It's a screening interview to finally get to this smaller number. Well, Cameron Brooks, we help you bypass all of those filters with our career conference. We don't have to submit resumes, upload until after you've done the initial interview. And after that, the companies can change everything in those profiles and go ahead and push you through. If you're just blindly applying online, you're probably going to get caught up in those filters. Because as I said before, those filters aren't designed to catch you. To allow you through. You're 1% of the US working population. You have a very atypical, what we call a non-traditional background. All 5 of these missteps lead to the biggest misstep in the transition. The biggest misstep in the transition is career do-overs. Getting out, starting in one company, realizing it's not a good fit, going to another one, realizing it's not a good fit, going to another one, realizing it's not a good fit, finally figuring it out, because you can't build succession in your career off of this. The fresh college graduate's young enough to absorb, and they absorb that, and companies expect them to do that. You can't do that. Well, you can, but there's consequences to it. You keep running up the career mountain, if you will, but keep running back down. You're going to exhaust yourself. And eventually the company's going to look at it and say, are you really serious getting on this trail? Do you really want to run up? Because you've run up and down it 3 times. Why should I take a chance in you? And you remember these, this is why you're getting out. When you're doing career do-overs, you're not going to get promoted based on your performance because you're not getting a track record. I can tell you the quality of life is going to suffer, not because you're not making good money. It's because you're going to be stressed. And you're going to lose. You're going to feel like you have career control because you're applying and starting over. Sure. But you're really losing that growth potential and control over those promotions. So a lot of the reasons that you ultimately wanted to get out were reasons why you wanted to leave. You're actually not solving those even, much less really trying to get on that 5-year your career growth plan that we've been talking about. So here's some things that you can think about in terms of your strategy. So when we think about strategy at Cameron Brooks, we think about, first, I've mentioned this a couple of times. Okay, you know why you're thinking about getting out. The next question is, what's my goal? What's my objective? You can't have a strategy till you have an idea of what does a happy, successful professional life look like 5 years from now? What does my personal life look like? Okay. If that's it, and I'm going to pursue business and I want to be a development candidate. Next thing you're going to start asking yourself, what does my network look like to line up interviews? How many decision makers and open positions can I get in front of? How am I going to prepare to be at my very best when I interview? How would I do that? You may decide that you might do this on your own, the middle piece here, the queen, if you will. Hey, I'll do this on my own. It's one strategy. You might decide you might want to do job fair type of things. Like you've gone to a service academy, they have a service academy conference where it's more of a job fair, meet and greet, hand out resumes, talk to talent acquisitions people. You could do an internship where you really evaluate 2 to 3 things, maybe get an internship, work there for 60 days, 90 days, see if it fits for you. You could apply on Indeed and websites and job boards. There's other recruiting firms out there. We like to call ourselves the transition partner, a transition partner. We're not a recruiting firm. We're not really recruiting. We're coaching, taking you through the transition process. This is what we do. All of these offer different things. And you can explore those and see which one fits for you. But I think those are really important questions. Where do I see myself? How am I going to get in front of interviews? How am I going to prepare? And what kind of partner do I want to have? The only one I'm going to talk about here at Cameron Brooks, is the only one that's fair to talk about, is Cameron Brooks, is what we do. And we're going to take each of these 5 missteps and share, this is how we help you avoid the missteps. We have a development and preparation program that would encourage you to start early. Most people start 10 to 14 months. Some people spend 3 years in our program before making the transition. And then we have a career conference process to interview with multiple companies and opportunities. So let's take the development and preparation program first. It's a one-of-a-kind, comprehensive strategy to help you learn about business through a reading program, self-study and preparation, through online learning modules and portals. There are unlimited coaching sessions where the beginning talk a lot more about career, learning about your career, what you want, guiding you in your research, helping you discover more about you and what you're interested in. It pivots to more of interviewing preparation as you get closer to your transition. We have a resume consultant that would work with you as well. And then a very structured workshop, interview skills workshop program that goes from basic to advanced to small group to mock interviews to study groups that would help you learn how to interview. Then when you would come to a career conference when you're about 60 days prior to starting terminal leave. We have 5 conferences a year. We have one the end of January. We just finished that up. We have one early April. We have one end of August, or middle of June, one end of August, and another one early November. You typically would start work about 75 days post that career conference. Some of the January candidates that just came to our conference, they're going to start work roughly around April, sometime in the month of April. Some might start in March, some might be early May, but the average is April. Come to the April conference sometime in June, end of May. So you get the idea, about 60 days to 90 days post your conferences when you would start work. But you come to a conference, typically people come 60 days prior to starting terminal leave so they can begin work ultimately on terminal leave and have overlapping pay and benefits. So leading into the conference, we're going to get to, through that development preparation program, we'll get to know you really well. 2 weeks leading up to that conference, we're going to curate an interview schedule. If you decide to partner with us, it's going to be unique to you. Nobody else is going to have the same interview schedule as you do. And you're going to explore as many career fields that you're qualified for and interested in. And we take into factors like your background, your interests, your location preferences. So then you come to the conference, you get that schedule of who you're going to interview with, job descriptions, locations, compensation. We have an orientation on Friday evening. Saturday morning, we have some large group sessions on preparing to interview, learning more about the career options. And there's presentations on every company that you will interview with, some self-study and one-on-one coaching. On Sunday, that self-study, one-on-one coaching and those presentations continue. I mean, you're basically taking like a college level class on interviewing and career searching and putting it into a Friday, Saturday, Sunday event. It's full, it's action packed. Monday and Tuesday, you interview with the companies. When you interview with the companies, this isn't a job fair. These are interviews that you've been selected for strategically to allow you to do a career search, that you're going to interview with open positions. I mean, the companies have open roles for you to go into that match your background skill set with people who can make decisions. You're going to bypass those filters. After that conference, you start into the follow-up interview process, where over about 12 to 15 days, you will do follow-up interviews that will be heavily involved with helping set up for you, getting you prepared, so you can then, do that second level deep dive of the company to determine if it's fit for you, getting offers, and then making decisions. Our career search strategy on the right side allows you to evaluate a number of courses of action. It's so pivotal to Cameron Brooks in helping you make this successful transition. We know that by evaluating a number of options, it helps you compare options, to compare the trade-offs. Every company's going to meet your needs in different areas. And by making those options, you make a good choice. Making a good choice allows you to make the successful transition, to get on that career advancement. This is very different when it gets confusing, when you're doing things on your own. You think about, I got a lot of interviewing, I got a lot of activity, I'm talking to a lot of people, I have a lot of irons in the fire, but you really don't have any interviews. Or you have interviews, but how are you syncing up? Like this lady I talked to earlier today, I got a follow-up interview with this company in 2 months. I've got another company might interview me next week. I'm never going to be able to compare them. Probably end up with one offer that you get to choose from. I tell you what, the people that come through Cameron Brooks continuously tell us over and over again, I never fully knew my marketability, my options, until I came to the Cameron Brooks conference. The variety of things that you're going to see. You see somebody here who's got more of an engineering degree. This is a sample of some of the companies they interviewed with. But you can see they saw business analyst positions, engineering roles, team leadership positions, sales. Now, this person just wanted to see it all. Now, maybe you're not an engineer. Okay, great. Maybe you don't like sales. So maybe you see team leadership and business analysis. Maybe you like sales and team leadership a lot. You just see those two. So we build that schedule. We're going to maximize your business potential by allowing you to transition, leaving the military. At our career conferences, 100% of the candidates in the last, 3-4 years that I can think of, have been pursued by companies leaving the career conference. And in the last 5 years, it says 100%, 99.9% of the candidates have earned offers. One candidate that I know of has not earned an offer through the process. Over 95% of the candidates, it just says 95% here, but the actual number, I'm sorry about this, is 90% accept an offer through Cameron Brooks program. At the end of 1 year, about 98% of our candidates are still with their original company. 93% after three years. So those statistics, we don't want to be perfect. We don't want people to take a position with one of our client companies not right for them. But we want people to come to the conference, get pursued. And that's 100%. It's been 99.9% that have been getting offers. 90% of the candidates are accepting roles through Cameron Brooks, and 98% after 1 year retention, and 93% after 3 years. So would we like some of those numbers to be higher? Absolutely. But it is a human business. And we believe that our career search preparation process helps people avoid those missteps to make that successful transition. And then when they become a Cameron Brooks alumnus, we're going to mentor them throughout their career. We help them with professional networking. We have alumni educational series. We do letters of recommendation for graduate school. We have ongoing career coaching. It doesn't stop just with that. And we do continued promotional mock interviews. So as we start concluding this session, with some questions I want you to start thinking. Hey, what problem, I'm getting out of the military for these reasons, but what really problem am I trying to solve? How does transitioning help me solve this problem? And what does a successful career look like for me in 3 to 5 years from now? Do I want to be the development candidate? What career fields in that space fit me? How will I, it doesn't have any, how am I going to balance my intrinsic and extrinsic factors? And what's my strategy look like? How am I going to set up interviews? How am I going to prepare? What kind of partner do I want? So what's next? Personal marketability assessment. Actually, what's next? Most of you would do a career or a webcast debrief with your transition specialist. We often try to get myself or one of the other transition coaches on there with you to debrief you on what you learned here, where we talk more about your goals and kind of what your takeaway here was, to make sure it's a good investment of your time to go to the next step of personal marketability assessment, which if you do the personal marketability assessment, you're going to complete the Cameron Brooks profile. We're going to ask you to fill out every field, put as much information as you possibly can, upload your evaluations, your transcripts, and then be ready to talk more in depth about your goals. So when you go to that webinar, the webcast debrief with your transition specialist, that's going to be a real, let's just get it all out there type of stuff, what you learned and what you're thinking about. And ideally, we get one of the transition coaches on there to talk more about, listen to you about your goals. And then we go to that personal marketability assessment where we get all that information on you and we can give you feedback about your marketability, career fields you're marketable for, salary range your credentials can command. We talk about location and we listen to you about your goals and your interests, and we'll determine, hey, is Cameron Brooks a good fit for you? So if we do that personal marketability assessment, you get to ask questions about us, how we could potentially help you. We'll ask questions to you about your goals, your objectives. We'll give you feedback on your marketability, and we'll get at the end of that and see, hey, does it make sense to form a partnership with Cameron Brooks, start talking about one of those career conferences? So I went a little bit over. I appreciate your time. Are there any questions that any of you have for me that you want to pop into the chat or ask? And if not, I'm going to go ahead and just put into the chat right now my email address. You can always email me here any questions that you may have. But I'll stay on for just a couple more minutes if anybody has any other questions. Okay, well, hopefully I've done such a good job that you haven't had to ask questions. I look forward to hearing from all of you. Hopefully I get to be on a webcast debrief with you and conduct a personal marketability assessment. Look forward to speaking with you in the future. Great, so I just got a question from somebody. What tips can you provide to manage the transition to an intrinsic mindset? To transition to an intrinsic mindset. Well, it's just a great question, Rob. What I would write down, I think it comes back to ask yourself first and foremost, what does a successful career look like to me 4 and 5 years? I don't think you need to specifically say, I'm in a medical device company. I'm working on this type of project, but what skills are you using? What type of company are you working for? Are you being promoted? Are you being developed? What's important to you in that 5-year point? And then say personally, what does that look like? For me, what am I doing for a happy professional life as well? And then I would say, okay, this is what's important. You put those two together. And if you're open to it, talk to one of the coaches, set up a webcast debrief. The coach is on there. We'll walk through that with you. We'll kind of give you the pros and cons, the way to prioritize things. Of course, you get to make the decision. If we're not on there, the debrief, do a personal marketability assessment. We'll absolutely get into those. But I would recommend starting with the intrinsic, prioritizing them slightly ahead. Then when you start getting offers and they're really close in comparison, start using those extrinsic things to split, to start making, weighting your decision on those. Maybe so if you got two very like opportunities and one's in a city that you like more than other, use that, those types of things. Because early in your career, if you prioritize those intrinsic things, you're going to avoid the do-overs. Later in your career, you might prioritize some of those extrinsic things. I mean, I'm in my late 40s, approaching 50 here pretty soon. And in over a year, I'm probably at a point where I don't really want to move anymore. And I don't have to at Cameron Brooks. So I'm prioritizing a little bit more the extrinsic things in my career. Well, I'm still a development candidate, but early in your career, try to prioritize those intrinsic things. So I hope that's helpful. Okay, you all, thanks for being on here. I certainly look forward to speaking more with you in the future. Have a great rest of the evening.